We got more big pieces of Epstein news as Ghislaine Maxwell is now being shipped out of prison. And we also have reporting that the FBI has indeed redacted Trump's name in the Epstein files. And I have some commentary from Virginia Giuffre's family. First, I just want to go back to this. We talked about it. I want to talk about it again because talk about touching something without permission, which Donald Trump does a lot. This is what the White House is going to look like. Now, this is an artist rendition, but this is what it looks like when there's a 90,000 square foot ballroom next to the White House. This is what's happening. $200 million to create a wart on the White House. I'm a progressive, liberal. I'm all about progress and change. This isn't that. This is all about appeasing one man's ego. It's disgusting. And I'm so upset that it's happening. And whoever becomes president next, I hope the first thing they do is just tear this shit down. It's ugly as hell. It's a monument to Donald Trump and his disgusting decadence. Truly. Okay, now let's move on to this because we did know that the FBI had combed through pages and pages and pages, tens of thousands of pages, just for one purpose, to look for Donald Trump's name. But now there's new reporting from Bloomberg that tells us that the FBI did indeed redact Trump's name in the Epstein files. And we found this out through an FOIA team tasked with conducting a final review of the records, blacked out the names before higher-ups said last month that releasing the documents would not be appropriate or warranted. Now, here's a little bit of information. Now, here actually is Donald Trump's name in the Epstein files. But here's what we know that's new. The FBI was instructed to search for and review every single Epstein-related document and determine what could be released. Now, there's 100,000 documents. So instead of, when they put 1,000 FBI agents on this, so instead of going after criminals, instead of investigating crimes and murders and fraud, what do they have the FBI do? Go through 100,000 documents, as well as 10,000 pages, for one reason only: to look for Donald Trump's name and redact it. That's what our FBI is up to. Now, interestingly, I didn't know this, but Trump could agree to let his name out or sign a privacy waiver if he wanted to be the most transparent White House in history, which is what they say. Or what I find to be a little bit hopeful is that when he and everyone else in the named in the files eventually dies, which is a fact of life, everyone dies, most of their privacy rights will disappear. So we are going to know eventually whether or not Donald Trump's in these things and to what degree. The truth is going to come out. It might not happen while Donald Trump is here. Now, we're also learning that Epstein's cell, there was 1 minute to 3 minutes missing from it, but we're also now learning that the video they put out wasn't even his cell. The camera wasn't pointing at his door. Here's a reporter from Miami saying just that.
Well, let me go back to the video thing for a moment. I don't know whether anybody has read the report of Epstein that the Bureau of Prisons did on his death, but they go into great detail about the cameras in his unit, okay? There was only one camera that was recording that night, and that camera was not in the wing where Epstein's cell was. So the video that the DOJ is giving the public is not of Epstein's wing. It is of two other doors that we don't know who was in those doors, and sort of a fuzzy area, which is where the guards sit, which you could barely see. Jeffrey was in a totally other area of that unit. So all these conspiracies and people putting together, where's that minute? They're missing the point. The point is, it doesn't matter if the video they gave us is missing a minute if the video isn't of where Epstein was. And that's the problem. The camera clearly says in the Bureau of Prisons investigations that the camera that was in, and they even draw a diagram of it, of all the cameras and where they're located, and there's X's on all of them, meaning not working, not working, not working, and the only one working was in an area where Epstein was not housed. So I'm sorry, but it's just frustrating to me because the minute is, I understand. I guess it's fun for the conspiracy theorists to go over that because it quite frankly it boggles my mind that they even put that video out there. So
isn't that shocking? So the video they put out wasn't even pointing at his door. So we truly don't know whether or not Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, or if someone else killed him, or someone else, allowed it to happen, look the other way. And we have to ask the question, why would the FBI and the Department of Justice release a video that doesn't even point at his at his cell, without, why would they do that? What purpose? They're lying to the American people, first off, but what are they covering up? They're clearly covering something up. And I think we eventually are going to find out why. And I think the cover-up is also happening in real time, because we are now getting reporting that Ghislaine Maxwell has been moved to a prison camp in Texas. Prison camp is what it's called. And here's a little bit about that. Spokesperson for the prison camp speaking, saying, "We can confirm Ghislaine Maxwell is in the custody of the Bureau of Prisons at the federal prison camp Bryan in Bryan, Texas." Now, this is a minimum security prison. She was at a maximum. She's already getting treated better because of whatever she's saying to Donald Trump's personal lawyer. We don't know what they're saying. It's apparently highly unusual that it's the second in command at the DOJ and not someone who's actually worked on the case interviewing her, because he's not going to know whether or not she's lying, whether or not she is making things up, whether or not what she's saying is part of the case. He's not close to this case at all. And the one person who was fired. And now the fruits of her conversation are coming to fruition very quickly here. Now, this is the least restrictive type of federal prison facility. A minimum security prison, like in Bryan, is the least restrictive type of facility among federal prisons housing inmates considered to be low risk, nonviolent, and unlikely to escape. Camps have very little or no fencing containing the inmates, and inside they're able to move relatively freely. And the other people who are there are Jen Shaw, who was in the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and Elizabeth Holmes, who was the CEO of Theranos, a blood testing company. A prison consultant who doesn't represent Maxwell suggested that she could run the risk of being threatened or hurt in Tallahassee. Okay, well, sure. I don't believe that, but someone said giving her situation, it's best for her. Well, this is also CNN, so CNN is not really doing much except wanting to appease the authoritarian administration. So this is very disturbing. And I kind of want to try as much as I can to end these videos, not focused on Epstein and Trump, but focused on the victims. And Virginia Giuffre's brothers were on CNN the other day, and they talked about how upsetting this has all been. And I want them to speak, because we do have to focus on the victims here. And I can't even imagine what this is like, seeing that this is all happening because Donald Trump is trying to avoid accountability. And one of the most prolific child sex traffickers in the world is being treated better and better, because she's probably going to claim Donald Trump's innocence. Thank you for watching. We may be at 700,000 subscribers at this time, but if we're not, please hit subscribe. If we are, hit subscribe anyway. We're trying to hit that milestone, and I will see you next time.